My name is Erica of Enjoy Erica Art Studio, and I'm so happy to come with you today with this awesome picture. It's supposed to resemble a Mount Fuji scene with some Japanese cherry blossoms and a cool sun in the back with some reflection. So for this project, you're going to need a couple of brushes in a couple of sizes. You want a big flat brush, something a little bit wide so you can get the larger background space. And then you want something for the smaller details, so a smaller brush. So we have a big brush, a smaller brush handy, so get that close. Of course, a cup of water, a pencil to draw. And the colors that we have here are going to be yellow, red, white. I have a couple of shades of blue, and I have pink and brown. If you don't have the different shades of blue, we can always mix it with some white, and of course red and white make pink. So we're going to get started with these colors, and then I don't know if you want to spotlight the picture bigger on the recording so we can see a more detailed picture, so we can see the lines more closely.
I don't think I can do it. I think I have to be the actual host to do this spotlight.
Sure. Let me see if I can just do it real quick. Sorry for the delay. That's okay. We'll just do it this way. No worries. Okay, so guys, go ahead and get your pencils handy. Get your blank piece of paper, and we're going to do a very simple sketch. Super easy. We're going to do a nice big circle in the background. We're going to do a little quick sketch of some mountains. And then we're just going to kind of draw a guideline for when we do our branches. So to get started, we're going to come down about 3/4 down from the top of the page and do one nice straight little line right across, just like so. So you want just one line about 3/4 down, just to give you, it's about 2 hands down, and just do a quick little straight line across. And then if we look at our sample here, the start comes to about, the tallest mountain is about halfway between that. So I'm going to have one mountain that's a little tall, and I'm just putting dots to kind of gauge where I'll be putting the point of these mountains. So I'm going to start at the lower corner, and with some short strokes, I'm just going to go up at an angle. And once I hit this spot, I'm just going to come down, just like that. Then I'm going to go back up and come down off the page. Very simple, just like so. So we went up and made 2 peaks, one that's a little bit smaller than the other. And then in our background, we're going to draw a big circle. So I want to gauge to see how big my circle should be. So my circle should be about 4 fingers wide. So I'm going to see one line here, one little dot here, little dot here, just to give me some guidelines of how big my circle is going to be. So I put a dot here. I use my hand to kind of see how big this circle is going to be. I put a dot here, a dot a little higher. And so now I'm going to come off of this mountain off the side, and I'm going to go ahead and, with some short strokes, just use the dots to kind of map out how big I'm going to put my circle for the sun. And as soon as I'm happy with the size, if you need to erase, you can erase. Curve it in a little more here. As soon as I'm happy with the size, I'm going to go ahead and we'll get started. Of course, this is our sketch. This is our inspiration. I'm just gonna really focus on making this kind of crooked branch that comes up, just the thickness. I'm going to sketch and then just drawing lines for where I think the branches should go. So the starting point for this tree will be the right side, starting here where all the corners meet. And with a short stroke, I'm just coming down. And then with a little bit of a straight angle, just curving it slightly off the page. And same on the other side. So we have one branch just coming down with a slight angle. And then I'm going to just draw some lines just to kind of give me an idea. And they look like letter Ys. When you're doing branches, they seem similar to a letter Y. So I have one here that can turn into a letter Y. So this branch is going to go this way. And I have one coming up. And we have one kind of going across our sun. And then I have some ones coming down. Doesn't have to be perfect, just as long as you're making lines that kind of have a Y shape to them. I'm just going to move it up a little closer just so you can see. I'm not drawing parallel lines. I'm just using them as guidelines. So when I put my color down, I can use my paintbrush to create the thickness. So as we do that, we're going to get started next on the background. Our sketch is done. We've planned out where we're going to put the main details of our picture. And so we'll get started with this background color. Then we'll go down into the mountain. Then we'll move our way to the water. And the last would be the tree. So once you're done with the sketch, I'm going to show you the sketch one more time, just to give you some time to see the branches and where they're placed. Just like that. And we're going to get started painting our background. So a great way to make different shades of blue is adding more blue or adding more white. This one starts off with a color blue that I already have. This shade is already this color blue. So if I want to make it a little lighter, I'm going to add some white. So I'm going to take my big flat brush that I have on hand, and we're going to get started painting the background for this scene. So I'm going to use my blue here, and I'm going to leave it very blue. And I'm going to load my paint on the tip of the brush. And just like that, I'm going to come down and go left to right, pressing kind of hard, putting the paint, and coming down about an inch. When I get to my sun, I'm not really going through the sun. I'm kind of just staying to the edge. I'm not really crossing the lines, but the branch ones I can cross. That's okay. It's okay if they're a little see-through. And just swipe right across. So now I have a big bright blue. I'm not going to clean my brush. I have some white here. And I'm just going to put a lot of white on my brush. And now I'm going to work this white, stopping at my sun. Just work this white, going the rest of the way down. Didn't clean my brush. I still have some blue on my brush. And now I'm going left to right, pressing firmly. And just swiping across the lines we drew for the tree. And it's still see-through, so I'm not putting so much paint that I can't see it. But I'm just working whatever blue paint's already on my brush with lots of white. and then blending it down. So some white here, going up to the blue. Now, same thing. I'm not cleaning my brush. I'm going to get into some blue. And now I'm going to go between where the blue and the white meets and just bring some more pigment down my way up. So the darkness stays at the top and the lightness comes down to the bottom. Just getting some blue in here and swiping left to right as I go down, adding a little more blue here, and just leaving it really light as it touches the mountain. And if I see any globs of paint, I'm going to use my brush to sweep it left and right. So it's not so shiny, so it dries pretty fast, just like that. And so we have our first background. So we've done this background, it's a lot of white as it goes towards the mountains. And as it comes towards the top, we have the thickening of the darkening of the blue. And so now we're going to get started on the mountains. So with the mountains, we're going to do a similar thing that we keep this blue a little darker at the bottom. And we're going to work our way up to the top, which is going to be completely white. So I'm going to take a medium-sized brush, just like that. And I'm going to pick a different blue. I happen to have a different blue. If you don't have this blue, you can always mix a little white and just make a different shade, just like that. Okay, so I'm going to take this kind of robin's egg blue, and I'm just going to do strokes, loading the paint a lot. And the strokes are kind of all pointing towards the top. So when I do a line, I'm drawing a line that it's always pointing at top. I'm pretending there's like an arrow on my line, and it's always going to point to the top of my mountain. So I'm taking this and I'm using the brush with lots of paint and just drawing kind of a straight line going towards the mountain. I'm not going all the way to the top. I'm kind of going almost to the top. The peak starts turning white just about where the sun is hitting. So I'm just going to do straight line going up and just coming down with all these straight lines using lots of paint, going up and down. And as I'm going around, all my lines are going to be pointing, like I said, towards the top of my mountain. So as I'm going around and filling in the spots, again, just taking the brush, filling it with lots of paint. And going up the mountain like so. And just keep filling in the lines. Don't be shy about putting paint. Just you want to see this kind of streaks that you're putting when you have the mountain. So just be mindful that you're doing one big line, that you're kind of seeing the streaks. You're putting the color like one next to each other. So if I draw a line here, the color is going right next to each other as I'm going up and down. And just taking my time and filling in these colors. Add a little white. And remember, whatever color paint that you use, it does dry a little darker. So remember that while you're mixing your paint and getting a different shade of blue. And again, just going in lines next to one another, loading the paint, filling it up, and just bringing it up and down. Seeing if I have any shiny spots and going over any bubbles of paint so it's nice and smooth. The paint's not too thick and it dries pretty quickly, but I definitely want to see these lines as I put color. And I'm not going to go all the way to the top of my mountains again. I'm going to leave a lot of space for the white, for the snowy top of these mountains. Just like so. And just going back over with these lines that are all kind of pointing towards the top. And just really filling. And I'm lightly putting some white in between just to give some sense that there's like clouds and movement and that it's not all one color, one shade. Just like so. And my brush isn't clean at all. I'm going to go in a very little bit of white. And I'm just going to take my brush and move it in a circle. And kind of go towards the bottom. And put my brush in a circle towards where the water and the mountain meets. This is just very spread out white. I'm just rubbing it in a circle right where the water and the mountain meets. And going it over and over till it looks very thin. You don't need a lot of paint. And now I'm just softly brushing over it. I'm not pressing hard at all. I'm letting the tip of the brush kind of take any excess and soften this white to kind of make it look like we have a cloud kind of billowing over the water. And now I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to clean it really good. So we take our medium brush after we filled in our mountainside. And now I'm really going to clean it well because I'm going to go start bringing the tops of the mountains to life with some white. So I'm going to fill my same brush with a lot of white after I've cleaned my brush well. And I'm going to start from the top of the mountain. And in the same kind of style where I'm putting the lines down, but now pointing down towards the bottom. So I'm taking some straight strokes like so with just some white. And now kind of pulling up towards the top. Starting at the tip, filling again with some white and coming down. And then coming and pulling some of that blue paint up. Now I'm going to take the same brush, not clean it a little bit, and fill it up with a little blue, and just lightly, barely touching the paper, and just softly touching where the two colors meet. So right over that, where the two colors meet, I'm softly bringing up some of this blue color with short lines. You don't want long strokes. You just want to kind of get the area where the two lines meet. There's barely anything on my brush, and I'm just going up and down. And just trying to blend the white into the mountainside, just like so. Let me give you a little close up there. Now we just took a lot of this white, brought it down, and now we just used the brush, touched a little of the blue, and then softly mixed the two areas where the blue and the white on the mountain meet. So that's what we got going on now. This is what our inspiration looks like. And next, we will move on to a different shade of blue for the water. So for that, we'll come back to the large brush that we did our background with. And you just want a little different shade of blue. You can change it by, of course, like I said, adding some water. Adding some white. But really, if it's the same color that you have as the sky, totally fine, because the sky reflects on your water. So I'm going to use this shade of blue for my water, mixed with this shade of blue. Here we go. So I'm mixing my blue, whatever makes my heart happy for the bottom. And I'm filling a wide brush, and I'm going to go through this whole bottom, but I'm just leaving the area where we have this larger branch empty. So same way we did the sky. Now we're just coming in left to right. And loading the brush just like that. And stopping where that branch is, and just really just going left to right with these big strokes and a lot of pressure. And just filling out the whole bottom. Can't forget the other side of the branch. And it's okay if you go over the line. It doesn't have to be perfect. We are going to cover it with a darker color, but you want it as close to the line as you can. And as you can see on this side, I'm just pulling to the left and pulling to the right. And just pressing really hard. And now I'm going to take a little bit of a darker blue and kind of go with it at the tip of my brush. This darker blue at the tip of my brush. And then just lightly touching now. So softly touching, not pressing hard at all. And just making some lines across. You don't want to cover over everything that you just did. You just want to put this darker shade of blue, or even just different shade of blue, over some areas, not the whole thing again. So you just want to make some lines and softly brush in some difference. And then of course you can take a little white, not clean your brush at all, take a little white and just come in. I'm gonna press this white on my brush a little bit and just come lightly pressing. I'm gonna rinse my brush. Dry my brush and then just go over that clean brush any of the areas. Make it real streaky, softly buffing and just going left to right, not really making any other, not going in every direction, just going left to right for that. Okay, so this is our inspiration. This is what we got going on today. And we're going to go ahead now and focus on this sun. So for the sun, I'm going to use this same 1/4 inch flat brush. And it gets real intense red on the edges. And then as the color comes in, as you can see in our inspiration, it turns into the yellow. And it looks like we have orange in there, but really it's just the red and yellow mixing and creating that shade of orange. So let's go ahead and look at how we created that. So you want your red really pliable. This paint that I have is kind of thick. So I'm going to go ahead and dip my brush into the water. If your paint is a little thick, you can dip your brush into some water and kind of thin it out. Make it very pliable, not so gloopy. When you add a little water, it thins out the color. And this part's a little tricky because you do want to try and stay as close to the edge as possible. And I'm just scraping any of the excess as I'm kind of thinning this out. I don't want a lot of paint on my brush at all. So I'm just using the edge of my palette or edge of my, you can use the edge of your cup and just kind of take off any of the bulkiness if you're mixing. And now I have just a little bit of thin paint. Now I'm just loading it towards the tip of the brush. You can kind of see it there. Now, when I come in to trace my sun, I'm going to stand my brush perpendicular, so straight up and down. So I'm going to stand it just like that, straight up and down. And I'm just going to kind of follow the line and trace the line very softly. I'm barely pressing, barely leaving anything. And it's tracing the sketch of the circle that we did. And I'm not trying to draw a complete straight line in one shot. I'm coming in and barely touching and just going in a circle very slowly. So I'm just trying to find my guideline and taking my time, standing my brush straight up and down, and just almost stamping and pulling on my guideline. And really getting that red line as round as I can. Because it's so bright against the blue, if you mess up, that's okay. But you do want to take your time. So get it as round as possible. And then we're going to take that line and slowly pull that red in. This is very softly, just using the color that's already there. I'm just starting at where I pulled in and just coming towards the center like so. And I'm just pulling the color that's already there and the color that's already on my brush. I'm not really trying to add more color. Just coming in like so. And just using whatever colors already on my brush. If you do need to go back in and get some more paint because it's just not filling the area, go ahead and do so. But when you're pressing, press with a very light touch. Almost like you're sweeping, not really pressing with full pressure. So the bristles aren't bent completely. They're just very lightly touching. And now for the center, I'm going to put the majority of the yellow towards the bottom right. So I'm not going to clean my brush. I'm going to go ahead and just take a bunch of yellow and put it on the bottom right of the sun. It's a big fill of yellow on halfway around the brush, and I'm just taking that and moving it from the bottom right and moving it a little over, like so. And once we have this majority of the yellow in, we're then going to take more red pigment and come closer to this yellow and continue moving the yellow out so it can blend and create the orange. But the yellow is really going to stay more here. Now I'm going to not clean my brush. I'm going to grab some of this yellow, this red, same amount that I did for the yellow. So this is not as light. Now we're getting a little thicker with our red. Again, I have some yellow on my brush. And just working around like so. Gonna take a little more red here. And now we'll get a little tricky. When we blend our orange together. So I'm just coming in with some more red. Not cleaning my brush. And I'm gonna come and put a lot of this yellow. And now pull some more red. And you're taking your time going around in the circle with some short strokes. Pulling in some more yellow. And watching that yellow turn into orange is a good sign. Just mixing and blending. Just like so. So now I have the majority of my my sun filled. I'm going to take my wet brush. It's clean. And I'm just going to go with a clean wet brush and just go around and kind of curve my sun just like that. Softly touching. Rinse my brush. Now I'm just going to get some yellow in here and just really highlight this yellow with my big brush. Some more yellow. I'm softly just touching, adding this yellow in here. Just like so. And if anytime you ever feel like you make a mistake or you put paint in an area you don't really want or intended to put it, that's okay. You can make a point with a paper towel or a napkin, and you can just press in and stamp out the color that you didn't want. So just like that, our sun is taking shape. I'm gonna rinse my big brush again and just smooth out with some curved lines this sun, and barely touching with a little white. I'm just gonna go and take this white and kind of tap it off to the side, just so it's not going to come on too gloopy, that it's kind of already in the brush. And I'm just going to softly make a curve going this way and this way. Curve, curve, all the way through the sun. And then now for the branches. All right. So for the branches, we're going to get started with a darker brown and then highlight with a lighter brown. So this dark brown will work perfect for that. And you're going to use a medium-sized brush for that. So we're going to go ahead and get into some of this brown. And kind of fill in the bottom using the guidelines that we drew. So now we're filling in our branches. So just a little reminder of this is what our inspiration looks like. And this is what we got going. So filling in our guidelines for the branches. Should have a little curve there. Lots of little strokes and just kind of following the shape of the branch. So I'm not going really left and right. I'm just going up and down, just like so. And now you should be able to see the guidelines, but if not, that's totally okay. You can create your own Y-shaped branches, even just with the paint. So just go ahead and follow me with this. I'm going to go ahead and stand my brush perpendicular, and I'm just going to use the guideline. Not really pressing too hard. The harder you press, the thicker the branch. So I'm softly pressing and moving the brush in short strokes. So I'm not trying to do one big long branch. I'm just moving through with some short strokes and creating these Y-shaped lines to create the branches. Coming through again, standing the brush perpendicular and just using my guidelines as I'm painting. The branches kind of overlapping. So I'm filling in a little more towards the base of where I know the branch is. And then compared to the ends should look a little thinner. And then I have a branch kind of coming up. So with some short strokes, I'm going to softly press and just follow my guideline. And then I'm going back and making the bottom of the branch a little thicker and leaving the ends a little thinner. Just coming through, overlapping the sun a little bit here. And now I have the branches coming down. So same thing, just using the lines as guideline, coming down. Using the lines as guideline. And remember, a great way to make a branch is just remembering the letter Y. And you want this to be a little thicker than the ends. Just like so. So we have our branches ready. We're going to let those dry a little bit so we can highlight them and then layer some flowers on top. So we're going to use this thinner kind of detail brush so we can get some reflection in the water. We have this amazing sun. So we're going to go in with a little more color. So I'm going to go ahead and add some more blue, just to add some paint towards the bottom, using some blue in different sections, and just filling in strokes going left to right. And just trying to add more dimension and more texture. And then I'm going to, as my picture shows, I'm going to have almost like a triangle wide of some colors mixing in here of the reds and yellows of the sun's reflection. So I'm going to rinse my brush. And I'm just going to barely touch into some of this red. And you kind of want to just softly, barely touch and put some lines of red. It's a barely a nothing, barely touching, putting some lines of yellow. Just like that. Going into some white. Just putting some white. And coming around with some more blue. Kind of in between those colors. Just little blobs of the color. Like so. Then I'm going to take my large brush, rinse it out really well. But I don't want to dry it too much. I still kind of want it red. So I'm kind of scraping the excess water off the end. And it should be clean. So I'm just taking the excess water off the end. And then I'm just going left to right. And just letting the streaks of the color shine. So I'm just lightly sweeping over the color. If I feel it's too red or it's looking not in the way that I want, I'm going to go over any of the areas that are looking too dark with some blue. But you want the color to be in a kind of a triangle type shape. Just like so. And I'm going to rinse my brush, touch it with a little white, and just go over some sections, take the excess off, and just swipe. Some highlighted. And again, just swipe some blue. Just like that. So that's what we have for this. And this is what we had for our inspiration. But we have our little colors peeking through water. So next we're going to go ahead and add a little branch over here. So since we've already added the details to the water, we can now add the branch that lives down here. So we have something coming off this little curve. Again, it's wider at the bottom and makes a Y. And then one that comes off over here. And then I'm going to mix this brown with a little white. And we're going to add a little bit of a highlight to our branches. So getting some brown. And putting some on this left side of the branch. Short strokes like that. I have a little squiggle here. And some short broken lines there. And just coming through with this little bit of light brown and a squiggle and broken lines, just to give it the impression of some dots, that there's bark. So breaking up some broken lines, adding a little squiggle with the same size brush, and then just kind of tracing one half of the branch. I'm going to then do some C curves there, putting some highlight and broken lines on the edge, highlight, on those. And then I'm going to take a thin liner brush and we're going to get started with some cherry blossoms, which is pretty easy. All you have to do is red and white. I already have a pink. I'm going to make it a little bit lighter pink. Do a little mixing. And again, this is our inspiration. We're going to go towards all the little bundles and do leaves of 3. So I'm going to start with this dark pink. I have a light pink ready, and then we're going to use white. So we're going to start with this darker pink in groups of 3 and just pressing little dots. If you don't have something that makes perfect dot or thin enough brush, you can always use the tip of the paintbrush to make little dots. But I do have a thin enough brush, and we're just going to go ahead and do in groups of 3. Doesn't have to be perfect. Overlaps the branch. Groups of 3. We have some living there in groups of 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And just putting the darker pink color wherever you feel the little blossoms are living. Group of 3 here. I'm just really filling in with a little bit of dark pink, and then we'll go over with some light pink. Doesn't have to be perfect dots. It's just you pressing the tip in groups of 3. Now I'm going to go into this light pink right over the same sections, covering some, filling in some. Getting some of the light pink. And really just going in. Filling out these flowers with some light pink. Doesn't have to be touching the branch, it can float off because the branch is covered by the blossoms. So we can pretend that this branch was actually longer by floating these blossoms out. So we start with the dark pink. We added some white, made some light pink. Now we're just going to go in with some white and just finish off in groups of 3 some of these bunches. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Taking some white, just leaving it heavily pigmented, lots of color on there. Now's the time to really fill the painting up with paint and color. So once you feel like all the blossoms look good and they're pretty filled, you have a dark pink, a light pink, and a white. The branches look good. We're going to then outline our mountains and give it a little more definition. And with that, I'm going to just mix some red and some brown. So I'm going to take some red and I'm going to mix some brown. And a little of this blue. If you want to use black, you can use black, but this is the darkest color I have with the colors that I have going on today. So as I'm mixing to trace these sun and these mountains, I'm going to go ahead and twist my liner brush just like that to make a real good point. And I'm just going to trace the outline of the sun. And I'm trying to do it with short strokes. I'm not trying to do the whole thing at once. I'm turning my brush on the side and making it into a point just to give it an easier time of tracing. Then I'm starting. Now I'm barely touching with this because I want to kind of have it look broken and jagged just to make the mountain look like it has a little jagged definition. And as soon as I get to the mountaintop, I'm going to come down and stop about there. I clean my brush and I just want to clean up this top here with a little white. So I'm just going to come in and clean up this top with some white. Back to my liner brush. Again, I'm twisting this. This is the brown. This is the red and the blue mix. That makes a nice dark color. If you want to use black, you can use black also. But these are the colors I have on hand right now. So I'm just going to come in here, twist till it makes a point. And trace my mountain. Just need some paint. Okay, now I'm just going to do another broken line across to define the water a little bit. Like that. And then I'm just going to come in with this darker color and just add some more interest to my branches. Just like so. some squiggles. Straightening out the lines in my branches. And kind of tracing over. And you can fill in as much as you want for the flowers. I'm gonna go in and just fill in
I
some more
love that. That's
flowers.
gorgeous. It's almost like a Japanese painting, you know, with the way the flowers are.
Yeah,
I love that. I
it's so
love
much
that.
fun, and you can really get crazy with it.
Yeah, you can. No, it's true. It's true. So let me see if who's left. We close at 5, so
Yeah.
they rush out. So if you end a little bit earlier or finish a little bit earlier, you'll get to see their work. So let me see who can put up their work. I love this. They left. Okay.
We're close.
Yeah, we're close.
So
We're-
we had one draw a cat, and then a couple of people did that with the circle in the mountain. It was gorgeous.
Awesome, I love it.
This is like one of my favorite things. This one I was
so
looking
glad you
forward
guys
to.
like it.
I was
Yeah,
watching
it's
the
fabulous.
kids.
This is
but
such a
look, I
fabulous
tried.
painting. I have, oh, look.
Wale
There's
is
Wale
showing.
showing.
I
Oh,
had to watch the kids,
excellent.
but I tried to keep up.
Oh, let me get him. Wait, hold on to it, Wale. Hold on,
Okay.
hold on. Let me add spotlight. Yeah, there. You can see it better.
Oh, so good.
If
I
I didn't
love
have to
it.
watch the kids, I would have really kept it. But they kept me engaged. I had a good
Oh.
time. Thank you.
Thank you for joining. I appreciate you. That's so
Always.
good.
Yeah. Yeah, we
It
had a
felt-
bunch of kids at the table and they were all painting. This is like one of their favorite things to do because right after homework helper, they run upstairs to join your program.
Oh,
So
I love it.
So on the iPad, we could have sometimes 8 people sitting there. So it's a
so
lot more people than what you see on the list. So Crestwood in person is usually like 8 or 9 people. So yeah, this was fabulous. Also, I have a request.
Absolutely.
I do your advertisements. So if you could give me your next paintings in landscape mode like this.
Okay. Yeah,
to,
absolutely.
like turn your camera so I can fit it
Hello,
on
this is Valerie.
because for some reason it won't take the picture unless it's landscape.
I'm good. How can I help you?
Okay.
Absolutely.
And if you want, also, the other thing is when you send your pictures, include me in on the email.
Okay.
Let me put it in on the chat. Where's the chat? I love how fast I am. It's J Leone, JLEONE at ypl.org. It's right there in the chat. Oh, no, that's spelled wrong. Not with the K.
JLEON.
Yeah, I've misspelled it 6 times now. JLEONE at ypl.org. There it is. That's the correction. So because I'll be putting things into the calendar, pictures that are in landscape mode are easier for me to place in the calendar. So that would be great. But this was lovely. Thank you so much.
Of
This
course.
is terrific.
And I do have,
And Z, our librarian, is here. Hold on, let me get that off. I was stuck. Okay, hang on.
I took a lot of pictures, so I will give them to
Uh-huh.
Jackie or Z, and she can share it with you.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yes, I love seeing everybody's
Anytime.
working.
I'm
Everybody
gonna log
working.
off now.
All right, sounds good. Get home safe. Take care.
Awesome.